Money does not bring you happiness. Happiness actually brings you money. They've done studies. They took college graduates, thousands of them. They ranked their happiness and then they looked at their income earnings, 10, 20, 30 years out. And the graduates who were happier always made more money.
Are you looking for free tools that accelerate your business? Try self-implementing Summit OS, the ultimate business operating system. Summit OS will help you empower your team, execute like hell, and dig a moat around your business. Go to stevebrader.com/tools and download free, simple worksheets that help you grow your business. Alternatively, get matched with a Summit OS guide and take your business straight to the top of the mountain.
Welcome to this episode of the Management Blueprint. My guest today is Brad Chandler, Chief Transformative Officer for LimitlessYou. LimitlessYou helps high achievers rewrite their stories and create a life of freedom, connection, and joy. I'm Krista Crawford, your host for today's episode. Brad, thank you so much for carving out your busy schedule. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thanks for having me.
We're going to cover quite a few topics today, so let's just go right ahead and dig in. One of the first that I like to ask is, what's your personal why, and what are you doing to manifest it?
Oh, I love it. My personal why is something I figured out 3.5 years ago. It took me 47 years of living. And that is to help people unlock these hidden beliefs in their subconscious mind that is driving the behavior that's not serving them, whether it's their businesses failing or struggling or cash flow issues or relationship issues or addiction, anxiety, depression, anything like that. Almost always those things are being driven by this subconscious beliefs that were formed decades ago. So my why is to impact as many. I want to help 1 million people erase these limiting beliefs so they can live the life and have the relationships that they deserve.
I'm going to go ahead and follow up with that one. What's a good example? Obviously not giving the person's name, but what's an example of where you helped someone discover something from the past that was keeping them from moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, a text I got about 8 months ago was from a client that said, "Thank you for changing my life and my family's life." And he came to me, his relationship with his wife was on the brink of divorce. And after doing the work with him, he realized some things from childhood that was affecting his relationship with his wife and that he really couldn't recall. We always remember everything. Remembering it means it's in your subconscious. Everything is stored in your subconscious, but we often can't recall it because it's painful, right? Fast forward 1.5 years after working with him, and his marriage is amazing. And I never met with his wife. I never had a marriage counseling session because relationship problems aren't ever the actual relationship. It's a relationship each individual has with themselves. So he's a good example of, one of the 100 people that we've helped over the years.
I'm glad you mentioned issues that take place earlier. One of the questions I also like to ask is, think back to your, let's say, 13, 14, 15-year-old self. What did you think you would be doing at this stage in your life now?
What I did for most of my life, and that is real estate and making lots of money, because as a child, love was shown to me through money. And then we had so many money problems in our house that I figured, well, at 10 years old, my mom and dad got divorced and my dad stopped paying. And so at one point in time, my mom said, we may lose the house that I lived in since I was born, and we may have to move into public housing. And I visited that public housing with her as a nurse because she used to go on visits there. And I heard there were shootings there. So my little 10-year-old brain likely said, if you don't have enough money, you lose your house and you go to public housing and you get shot and you die. And maybe that's why I got into housing. And maybe that's why at any given time I own, over 100 houses. So I always thought from 9th grade when I read a book on how to buy real estate with no money down, that I would build this real estate empire because I need a lot of money, because that was going to make me happy and safe and secure.
So what is that relationship between money and happiness?
So most entrepreneurs get into business thinking that if I can get to this place, and this place is usually a number, if I can get $5 million in the bank, if I can make $1 million a year, if I can get a $10 million retirement account, then I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be fulfilled. I'm going to have a sense of purpose. I can prove to the world that I'm enough. But it doesn't matter how much money you have, you'll never get there. It has nothing to do about the money. And if you don't believe me, ask Michael Jackson, Prince, Kurt Cobain, Matthew Perry, the list goes on and on and on, right? They had all the money. The irony, Krista, is that in a 5-week program, I can teach someone how to get that state that they think is going to come years down the road from all this money. You can get that today. And when you get that today, that state, that inner peace, the chances of you making money exponentially go up, because money does not bring you happiness. Happiness actually brings you money. They've done studies. They took college graduates, thousands of them, and they ranked their happiness. And then they looked at their income earnings, 10, 20, 30 years out. And the graduates who were happier always made more money.
I want to keep talking about this happiness because this is crucial to what you do with LimitlessYou. You want to describe some more about LimitlessYou, like what happens in general without giving away your trade secrets? What's the process?
I'm going to explain the process of why is it that human beings can't stop a negative behavior? Why is it that they struggle in their marriages and eating and with food and drugs? Every negative behavior in the world can come down to this little explanation. The negative behavior is actually a solution, your mind's solution to something that it perceives as worse. This thing that once you do the deep dive, and we do it through hypnosis, and hypnosis is nothing more than a deeply relaxed state where we can access your subconscious mind. We look at what's over here that is more painful than the addiction or the shutting down with your spouse or whatever it is, the depression. And every time we find this thing over here was created in childhood as a way to protect yourself from something that was traumatic or stressful or a time when you didn't get your needs met. And guess what? It's always an untruth. So what we do is we show your brain that times in your life, either real or imagined, because your brain doesn't know the difference, of when it was true. And then your brain is like, has a mismatch detector. It's like ding, 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 ding. Your brain can't hold two conflicting thoughts. And what we do with this process, Krista, is we literally rewrite the neural pathway. It's like going into cell A6 of an Excel spreadsheet and deleting 100 and putting in 200. We're rewriting it. When we rewrite that negative pathway that's driving the negative behavior, what do you think happens to the negative behavior?
It goes away.
It goes away because there's nothing driving it. But after I went to 30 years of therapy, I went to 50 different marriage counseling sessions. What most therapists and life coaches and psychologists and psychiatrists want to do is they want to focus on the thing that you come to them with as a solution, right, to a problem. But they want to be stuck on the solution. Oh, you have anxiety, Krista. Let's talk to you about how we can do breathing exercises. No, that shit will never work. You've got to get to the source of what is driving the issue that you want to heal or fix. That's the magic in what we do. And unfortunately, it's done by probably 1/100% of life coaches and therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. Don't ask me why. I mean, actually, they just figured this out 20-something years ago. They thought that as a child, when you created an emotional learning, mom didn't give me a cookie at 5 years old, so I told her I hated her. She cried for 2 hours because of her emotional state. And then dad came home and spanked me and said, don't you ever make mommy feel that way. So the emotional learning is, if I am my authentic self, people will remove their love from me. And I think going back 6 million years of our primitive brain, we lived in tribes for 98% of that time. So if you upset the tribe leader, what happens to you? You get kicked out of the tribe and you die. So that emotional learning, from Freud up to 100 years after his death, they thought that that was imprinted in your mind and could never be changed. In this particular example is, if I'm my authentic self, love will get taken from me. They didn't realize, literally until 2020, that you could rewrite that new neural pathway. So you're probably like, well, they're probably teaching that now in medical school and psychology. No, they're not. What do they want to do? What does Western medicine want to do? They want to diagnose you. What's wrong with you? They want to give you a label. You got bipolar, you're depressed, whatever. And then they can give you a drug, because there's a lot of money in drugs. There's 100 million Americans on an anti-anxiety or anti-depression drug today. I had a doctor on my show, my podcast, How to Be Happy for Entrepreneurs, about a month ago. And I said, doctor, there's 100 million Americans on anti-anxiety and anti-depression. How many of those people should be on it? Do you know what his answer was?
No.
A big fat zero. None of them should be on it because it doesn't really work. Getting to the root cause and solving why you're feeling this way works, because not one American or human being on this planet was born with depression or anxiety. It was learned. And if it was learned, it can be unlearned. So that's what we do. We teach the brain how to recode.
Fantastic. So who do you read? Do you have a particular author or scientists, or do you have particular people that you follow?
We do. I mean, there's so many great ones out there. Dr. Joe Dispenza, amazing, absolutely amazing, all based on neuroscience and how you change the mind and that changes the body. I've studied under a guy and read most of another doctor, Dr. Gabor Mate, who's been doing this work for 40 years. We also studied under this famous therapist from the UK called Marissa Peer. So those are three of the folks that we love to learn.
Fantastic. So you've had employees over time that have worked for you, whether real estate or doing the work that you do now. How do you think those employees describe your leadership style? How would they describe you?
Well, now all I talk about is self-love. They would probably just not the old Brad, because I went through this massive transformation 3.5 years ago trying to get my son help for anxiety. I realized that I had issues from my childhood that were affecting everything in my life. I made 5 business mistakes that cost me $9 million between 2005 and 2017. I had 2 failed marriages. I had kids with behavioral problems. I used to use weed and alcohol on a regular basis. All of that has changed. Everything has completely changed. So the old Brad, they would have classified as always changing his mind, hard driving, not empathetic, just all over the place, chaos. The new Brad is controlled. The new Brad is methodic. The new Brad is empathetic, loving, kind, really cares.
Wonderful. You shared with me that you have the 3 R's that you like to follow in terms of business process. Share with the audience.
Yeah, then this is specifically for helping someone change their life, their business, their health, whatever, their relationships. Realize, the 3 R's. The first one is realize. How in the world can you change a behavior when you don't know the source of it? Most everyone comes to me, they're like, oh, no, my childhood was great. And after 5 minutes of talking to them and figuring out their dad was never around, or their dad hit their mom, or they were poor as can be and they always fought about money, I'm like, well, there's some things there, because otherwise you wouldn't be coming to me with this, anxiety or cash flow issues or whatever it is. So most people just don't know. I want to change, but I don't know what it is that is driving what I can't change. So you got to be aware. So that's what we do. We realize. The second R is recode. And that's the example I gave where we just literally, through neuroplasticity, rewrite the neural pathway that's holding the underlying untruths that are driving your negative behavior. And then third is rewrite. You get to take back of your life and your story and manifest your dreams. Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're struggling, your business is struggling, you have employees coming and going, your cash flow is bad, you got a bad relationship with your wife or your husband, your kids have behavioral problems, issues with grades, none of this stuff is your fault, and you deserve more. And you've probably like, well, I went to therapy and I tried this. Well, I get it. I did too. But there's a better way. So whether it's me or Yvonne or someone completely outside of us, just know that your life can change in ways that you probably can't even imagine, and can change quicker than you ever expected. We now see massive changes in our clients between hour 3 and 5. I went to hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of therapy, and I got more out of a 3-hour session with this ex-Navy SEAL in an Airbnb bedroom in Park City, Utah, 3.5 years ago.
You brought up Yvonne. So experience with having a family business. Any tips for those people listening out, that may have a family business? Many businesses in this country have some family relationship involved. Any offerings?
Yeah, it's the same advice if you ask me, hey, my kids are behave terrible, they have anxiety, or my marriage is really bad. It's the same advice I'd give you, and that is rebuild a connection with yourself. My 2 previous marriages were 2 people who didn't feel enough. And so we were always battling for our worthiness. Yvonne and I, while we're not perfect, we have done so much work that we can have these really tough conversations about money, about our future, about, parenting, all of that. When you feel not enough, it is so hard to have those conversations and open up, because your childlike brain is telling you if you open up, something bad is going to happen. So that's my advice. If you run a family business, you actually go take our quiz at unlocklimitlessyou.com/quiz. And in 3 minutes, it's only 12 questions. It will tell you if you have some of these underlying things. So if you take that and you get lack of self-love, and you're super overweight, or you struggle with food or drugs or porn, or your business sucks or your marriage sucks, this is the reason. You now know it's because of the relationship you have with yourself, And it wasn't always like that. You weren't born like that. So you can heal that. You can repair it, and everything can change in a good way.
Thank you for sharing that. So what are you working on now? What's the next step? What are you introducing any new programs? What's on the horizon for
Yeah,
you
we
and
have
your organization?
Yep. A couple months ago, we rolled out two different masterminds. We have weekly masterminds now that's open to anybody. They meet on Wednesdays and Thursdays at noon. Yvonne's running those. They're literally like workshops on how to be happier, how to make your business better, not from a standpoint of like marketing, but most people, the gentleman who brought me through my transformation, ex-Navy SEAL, he was working with these powerful CEOs, and he'd go in and they'd be like, we need help with our company. And I think it's marketing or employees or this manager. And after about, I don't know how many, 5, 10, 15, he's like, the problem doesn't lie with any of them. The problem lies with your mind and your thinking. That's how we created this whole thing. So we teach people how to, again, heal themselves so that their business can explode. Almost everyone we've worked with is seeing more success from their business. We are creating just more program for the masses. For the people who can't afford our normal program, we're creating other programs because my ultimate goal, Krista, is to have an app or a program that the young lady in India who has $4 to her name and is thinking about taking her life can actually get on this app and help save her life. So that's our long-term vision, is to build something that can actually change the world.
Fantastic. Any advice for entrepreneurs just getting started now?
Yeah. So on our resources tab of our website, we have a thing called the root cause or finding your why. It's one of those two. Yvonne has put all these together. It's a 7 levels deep question. So what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, why is it that I want to start a business? Or what is it that I'm trying to achieve? And then when you answer that question, I want you to ask the next question, why is that important? And then I want you to do that 6 more times. So it's 7 levels deep. Because when I look back at why I got into real estate, I got into real estate because I wanted to make a bunch of money, because I didn't feel enough. I took my favorite class, Krista, at Virginia Tech was psychology. I walked out of that class and I said, man, this is the best class I've ever taken, but there's no money in here. I can't make a lot of money in psychology, so I'm not going to do it. And here I am 30 something years later, and I'm kind of doing psychology. So the advice is make sure that you're not like most entrepreneurs that are trying to make a bunch of money to prove something to the world. Go figure out exactly what your purpose in life is. And I don't know, about 6 months ago in one of these mastermind sessions that we do, we did a very like light meditation or hypnosis where we, got everyone in a deeply relaxed state. And then we took them back to childhood and we asked them between the ages of 5 and 10, what was it that they really loved to do? That thing that they really love to do, there's a good chance that at 26, 36, 56, that's the thing that you really love to do. Go find what you really love to do and do it, and the money will come. If what I shifted from is I shifted from trying to make a bunch of money to make myself feel better to now I'm trying to make an impact. And since I made that switch 3 years ago, Krista, my net worth has gone up much, much more than any other 3 year period in my life because now I'm focused on helping people and making an impact rather than trying to make myself feel better.
What have I not asked you that we can't leave today without you sharing with the group?
You asked some amazing questions. I think the most important thing, and I may have addressed this, is no matter what you're going through, it's not your fault. It is not your fault. Stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking what happened to me. After you listen to this, I say it's not your fault. It doesn't mean you don't have a responsibility. After you've listened to this now you have an awareness. You can go take the self-love quiz and see if that's what's driving the negative behavior. Now it's up to you to do something. Are you going to listen to this and just make this another podcast? Are you going to actually do something? Because someone's going to listen to this that's going to take a step in a journey that's going to forever change their life. And honestly, it's generations to come because what we do, Krista, when you don't feel enough, there's no chance your parents felt enough. So what we're in this multi-generational curse, and that's just passing this down to our kids. What's the absolute best gift you can ever give a child? It's to break the multi-generational curse. How do you do that? You teach their kids how to love themselves unconditionally. If you take the quiz and you have mild self-love or lack of self-love, you don't love yourself unconditionally. How in the world can you teach your child to do that? You can't. So go figure out how to find that, how to love yourself unconditionally, love yourself like you would a best friend. And then your family will change for generations to come.
I have to ask, your passion comes across so clearly. Have you always been such a passionate person?
No, I was mostly passionate. I was scared. I was the guy who for 47 years said, I don't care about what other people think. I love myself. I have all this confidence. And it was all a lie. I was a scared little child who was trying everything desperately to make millions and millions of dollars because I thought that was going to solve my problem. So I was more scared than I was passionate. Now I'm passionate because I have literally lived this. I've gone from broken to closer to whole. And I can't tell you how profoundly my life has changed. And I know everyone is capable of this. Literally, everyone's capable with a couple weeks of work. And I just can't shout from the mountaintops loud enough to say, you don't need to suffer anymore. You don't need to struggle. There's a better way.
Brad, how can people find out more about you and your business?
UnlockLimitlessYou.com is the website. If you do /Brad, that has everything. It has all my social media. It has the self-love quiz. It has our podcast. It even has my cell phone number. So if you're really suffering, if you're really struggling, go pick up the phone and call me, text me. I will take your call. I'm not going to charge you. I just want to help you. If it's me, if it's Javon, if I've got to refer you to someone else, whatever it is, just don't spend another day struggling or suffering.
Thank you so much. And that concludes this episode of the Management Blueprint.